Hello everybody, how are you doing? Here to discuss Devil Savior's DS-03 compressor. That's a compressor with one S, for no good reason. I guess they just wanted to make the word uniquely searchable while confusing everyone that is familiar with the word compressor. I think. Maybe I'm horribly wrong, and it's always been one S. Mandela effect. Mandela effect. Yeah, usually I'm just talking to myself. I thought people might be curious about this since I talked about how the hip broke. So normally compressor, if you held it like this, the front end would not do that. There is no hip ratchets currently there, and that's just the way it is. So without too much discussion, we'll go ahead and turn it to robot mode and discuss the hips as we go along. Generally, I like to get the legs done first, and this really lends itself to that. I find the wheels, there's kind of like a little parking spot for them there, but you can tell that puts the wheel too high. So I like to put the wheels a little bit more forward so that it's a little bit lower down, but we can get them out of the way for now. So there's a little hook here in the instructions. The hook is the other way around, but there's like an indentation in this, so there's not a way to like just flip over the hook. So it is what it is. There's a little retaining tab in the top that usually comes loose by now, but it's just a little, slot and tab. This folds down. They have like an ancillary bit of instructions that are like, be real careful with how you do this, and yeah, I mean, always manipulate a joint as close to the joint itself as possible. Don't go yanking on it. But that kind of tucks out of the way like that, and then we can spread the legs apart. Mostly I do this because the thing broke and I've got a fairly weak cobbled together joint here, but it's not a bad idea anyway. I would say make sure you press on this in towards the hinge joint, and just make sure that this doesn't get torqued too much as you move this, as you pop this joint. But you do have to fold the whole thing out 90 degrees and then turn it around and fold it back the other way. Now the way I fix this, this part, let's see which one is the repaired one. I lose track of it. Yeah, this is the one that I repaired. So what's inside the joint is this stem was part of this plastic part. And there's a matching stem on the other side that has a hole that goes here. And what happens is there's these ratcheted spring plates. This very heavy spring was sitting between them. I'm missing the other gear thing because it's inside the joint right now. But, it did this, click, click, click. The spring is very strong, and I think that's part of the downfall. Also, I suspect that the part itself, this stem might have had like a little air bubble when they molded it, and it was weak. I certainly didn't do anything unusual with the joint, but it just cracked right off it. So what I did to fix it is I took this apart, which is a pain in the ass. It's not just these 4 screws. You also have to drive a pin out. There's a little disfiguration there. When I drove the pin back in, it wasn't completely aligned, so it kind of marred the plastic on the other. The pin pushed the plastic out. But you do have to drive the pin out, you have to take the screws out, and then you have to open this up, and you'll see the mechanism as I described it. And then what I did was I took the one that was broken, this one, I kind of drilled out a hole that was like right down the center where it was supposed to be. I got a bolt from the hardware store that's roughly the same size as the holes through this part. You can tell it actually shifts around a little bit more because the bolt's not completely the size of the hole, so there's a little bit of wiggle there. Anyway, so I cut the bolt off so it wasn't too long, so this ratchet could still exist, because there's a whole spring that goes through here. And then I just drilled out the hole so it was just a little bit bigger than the bolt shaft, not the threads. And then I forced the threads into the plastic, and that's how I cobbled it together so that I could shoot it. But ordinarily, if this was like a regular toy that wasn't broken like that, these would be very tight, like chunk, chunk, chunk joints here. I did source, and I'm waiting to get the replacement part from Devil Savior, which could be months from now. But I sourced some other springs from a spring manufacturer. They're a lot softer than this thing. This thing I can barely squeeze this with my hand, and these are a lot softer. I could probably stack a couple of them together. But once I get the replacement part, I'm thinking about repacking this joint, not with the spring that came with it, that was so overly chunky, I think, but put the softer spring in and see how it goes. But this is like, if the joint is too loose and it snaps too easily, like right now, way too loose, the whole combined figure could list. You'd have to balance it on its hips without a ratchet joint, or without a sufficient ratchet. So we'll see how it goes. But it could be a month or two before I get that replacement. By the time I get that replacement part in hand, it hasn't even shipped yet, so we'll get there someday. It made it real easy to manipulate this joint for stop motion though, because it's not ratcheted. All right, so you spread the legs out like so. We release this front tab, and then this thing can flip over and rotate around. Kind of creates a bit of a heel for it to support itself on. Same thing over here. We want to release the front and then slide this around like this and rotate it. And then these feet, they basically just come out and tab in, but you do have to manipulate the you have to rotate this foot, and it's easier to do it when it's sideways. So we're going to turn it sideways, rotate it, spread out the back toes, and just spread the front toes a little bit. And then when we put this in position, it's all set up instead of having to fight clearances. But that's what you want it to look like. Same thing over here. We're just going to turn this sideways so we can rotate it. Spread the back toes, the front toes, untab this bit, bring it around, and tab it in. And whenever you want to do it, you can go ahead and flip out the knee pads and fold up these bits. And that's pretty much the leg. You do have to slide this down so it's more centered. Basically, vehicle mode is like this, and then combined mode and robot mode are the other way, this way. So this is only for vehicle mode. This is for the other two modes. So we ring this around like this, and then we got to snap this joint. And I just like to kind of go part way, so it's like in an A stance. You do have to unlock these tabs. These tabs are for all the modes except for robot mode. So vehicle mode and combined mode, you would have those tabs engaged. But it gives you a bit of a knee, so you can unfold the knee a little bit. And so he can have like a stance where he's like that. Unfortunately, it's going to do that because there's no hip ratchet. The next thing you need to do is you untab this. It's already come untabbed, but you do have to untab this. I like to fold it over because it kind of looks like a design component. And then you walk this joint back like this, and then you engage the front tab to kind of hold it together. You also need to flip down this chest piece. You can leave these out of the way for now. And we can go ahead and flip the wheels back towards the back there. They just kind of park back there, I think, in robot mode. All right. So now we focus on the rear of the trailer. He's very tall. We want to disengage these whenever we get a chance. Now's a good time. We want to spread this apart a little bit, pop these little tabs that hold this component in. Just get that out of the way. These parts, this This moves out of the way primarily so that you can actually put the shoulders where they're supposed to be. They don't really have any place to go. They have these tabs, and it seems like those would tab into something, but I haven't figured out what they might tab into ever. So it is what it is. We do need to get this, the two halves of this separated, and there's like a tab there, like a C-clamp on this side, and then a mushroom tab on this side, and you're just trying to work it out like that so that it's freed. But this is only for robot mode. For combined mode or truck mode, this is tabbed up. All right. So we got all that out of the way, and then we're going to start rotating. Make sure the chest piece is out of the way. There's a bit of a clearance issue right here. This will kind of get caught in working it in either direction. This whole getting it rotated out like this only happens during robot mode. So this is only a robot mode thing, because in vehicle mode and in combined mode, these things are, combined together, the two halves. But once you get this rotated a little bit, you can start folding this down like that, and it kind of ends up like that. And that's why this is kind of out of the way, because otherwise it would collide. Do the same thing over here. Did collide. I think these really, because the wheels get in the way of these things, I don't think you really fold them down for robot mode, but you can kind of. It's more folding these down is more for combined mode, which this thing will live in once I finish showing you. So you got your big arms. Before you put the chest piece away, you can go ahead and flip out the head and then put the chest away, and just make sure you flip out these ornaments that make it look like the front of the truck, kind of. Then the arms, we rotate this bit around here and fold it up. The arm comes down. There's like kind of a bicep here that folds down. This is only for robot mode. And then the instructions are kind of unclear, because this flips up and rotates around, and then the instructions make it look like this can just lay flat. It can't. So I tilt it off at a slight angle and park it like that for robot mode. But that's one arm. And then, these bits here flip forward, maybe, for robot mode. And this flips up like this. So you got his little claw arms and his big claw arms. And then that goes around like that. You can open his claw, and you can flip the wheels are just on a little rotation hinge. So they're a little more forward, and then they're a little more backwards. And that's robot mode, pretty much. We'll leave that up for a good while, see if YouTube is kind enough to just auto thumbnail based on that pose. Robot mode. We'll take a short break here, catch up on some comments, and then we'll do the transformation to combined mode. This Megatron is the red Megatron. That's just an action figure. It's okay, but it's just a little action figure. It doesn't transform or anything. You mean Devil Savior? I don't know. Devil Savior's not too bad. The one I had the most trouble with, or that was the most aggravating, was Split. I have had my breakage problems with DS-02, the green guy. Here's my replacement part I got from Devil Savior. Just haven't bothered putting it together yet. I mean, what broke was actually just this sort of C-clamp holding this thing broke. I was learning how to transform, and I think I kind of torqued it the wrong direction. But I'll replace that one of these days. It's a perfectly good foot at the moment, so why would I change it? Well, yeah, it's a masterpiece grade toy. It's going to look better than Studio Series. All right, so let's go to combined mode. For For the most part, you're just kind of putting the arms back where they were. So we'll just kind of do that real quick. This can stay out. This goes out there like that. And then you do have to bring these around to the back. So we'll return to that in a minute, but we're turning it around now while we have a chance. This doesn't have to go all the way back up because it's not gonna. So we'll just go straight out to the side for now with that. And then this, I don't know. It seems like it works really well if it just hangs straight down. It might be meant to be in like vehicle mode, so we'll put it there for now because I know it collides later if you don't. And so we're just flipping this down and bringing it around to the back, and then we'll return to that in a minute. And then this all comes down like this comes up like this, and we bring the wheel forward. Mine does have a second flaw that doesn't really affect me very much, but there's a retaining arm here for combined mode. It is missing on the other side. I never got one. It doesn't seem to be all that important for combined mode, so I didn't bother anyone about it. But if these biceps are down for robot mode, you do need to put them back up. So the biceps only kind of come down for robot mode. For combined mode or truck mode, they would be flat. We can go ahead and flip this out and put the head away. We're going to leave this out because this retains the mechanism. We're going to get the scorpion arm out of the way, and we're gonna bring this forward so there's a little bit of clearance. Watch for this thing to be clear, and then we can bring the arms back up. And we're just kind of going back to truck mode, but without bothering to put the arm completely away right now. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Bring it up for truck mode. And then once you're going to get the C-clamp pegged back together. And then we can put this away. We do want to bring these out, and for combined mode, the wheels actually do kind of tab onto these pseudo pegs that exist here. So that's for combined mode. And then we'll go ahead and arrange the legs before we get to the rest of it. I want to arrange the legs for combined mode, which is basically like turning it most of the way back into truck mode. So there's this. Just get it out of the way for the moment. We're going to flip this around. It'll be vertical when it's in combined mode, so it doesn't need to be ratcheted, so it's fine. But then this goes to the bottom. Remember, we're going to tab these back together, so we'll go ahead and do that. So it's a solid leg and a solid armature instead of being a knee. This goes to the bottom. You have to kind of rotate this around. So this position is only for combined mode. And then we tab this in to itself. And they say it should be like, it collides if you don't turn it sideways first. I forgot. But they want, for combined mode, they want to spread these out so they don't stick out the end, and then these are straight together. That's combined mode. The hip shift stays in robot mode, so the only time you're using this is when you're in vehicle mode. So this front one is always engaged for robot mode or combined mode. This leg, this goes up like this, and you can imagine that combined mode, you want this square peg to end up facing down, but this folds double, folds in half, 90 degrees. So facing down is kind of a relative thing, but it ends up facing down like that. So that's combined mode. And if you're seeing the screw head, you're on the right track. If you're seeing the detailed part, you're on the wrong track. But basically, screw head ends up pointing down from the perspective of robot mode, but forward once you bend this thing 90 degrees. So we do the same thing for this leg. Snap, 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 snap. And then we're going to lock this up. Engage that. We're going to get the foot out of the way for a moment. Flip this up and rotate it and put it in place like it's vehicle mode. Like that. And then flip out the the peg. I keep holding this closer to the camera than I normally do because it's so big. So I'm going to try to fix the focus here. Okay, that was too much of a fix. All right, sorry about that. So this goes out, and then the foot goes to the bottom. We're going to rotate it back to the vehicle mode position. And we're going to rotate this extra joint around so that it folds the other way. And then that tabs. This does tab here fairly solidly if you get it right. The other one this other one kind of tabs so naturally that I didn't really have to think about it. But this is where they would be for combined mode. And then you fold this down. These two tabs are going to go into these two slots here. And like this tabs up, and then this points. You want to make sure that this points forward towards the front wheels, if I am not mistaken. So this is just on the outside. We'll arrange those in a minute. But this folds down. They're both halves are ratcheted, so it's quite a loud snap. But we're going to fold it all the way down till it snaps, and then we're going to tab those tabs into the hips. If it'll let us. There we go. It's coming closer and closer. There we go. And just to kind of show you the operation of this, but there should be two of these, and they kind of snap into these holes to kind of hold it together. I could see it developing stress marks and being an issue, but the other one's missing, whatever. So those are the hips, like that. And then these are like decorative plates. And then you want to, basically these are angled, they're kind of parallel to this part of the truck cab, but they fold over. The hump kind of goes on top. You could have it the other way around, and then it can't fold 90 degrees anymore, so that's kind of your clue that you got it backwards. You can do the same with the other side. Just kind of tuck them in behind these ornaments. And then this, the idea is for it to end up as parallel to these as possible. And you'll notice that this thing actually has tabs that can kind of, it's almost like it's just an alignment tab, but these ornaments here do have like kind of pseudo slots that hit the tabs on that thing. And then I would have these forward because you have to kind of fold them back to combine it. I did have the thing kind of sitting more like this in the turnaround, but it's for robot mode, it actually ends up more flat like this. And then I noticed that the Devil Savior, when they show their big combined, like the body, the big sphere of parts combined, they have these canted upwards slightly, so that the robot itself, when you have the legs on, it'll have kind of an A stance. So that's why I did that in the video. I canted them up a little bit. But I suppose people are probably curious about this. I mean, I'll eventually have like a bringing it all together video or something, but the idea with this guy is he has these really big slots, and they go on these really big pegs. That's mainly where he combines. And so we can kind of get this shit out of the way and try to... The clearances can be a little tricky, partly because I have the legs canted upwards and they're kind of in the way. But these actually go here. I've seen people not do these ports, and I mean there's tabs for a reason. This doesn't line up anymore for that. Remember I showed you like there's like a pseudo slot here and a tab, but once you actually combine it like this, then it's too far away. It won't work. But lower that head out of the way. And this is... They will cant up, but you know, it collides right away, which is probably a good thing because that probably helps. In fact, even without the, I wonder, even without the ratchets, this thing would probably stand fine with it canted up like that because it collides like that. So it might actually kind of hold together anyway. But once you get all that together, then you hook in the dump truck for the cement mixer. And you tab everything together. I'm not going to bother tabbing it because I'm just going to take it back apart again. Well, I'll probably sit it on a shelf until I get the limbs. I need 2 legs before I can really start standing this thing up. But that's what it looks like combined, near as I can tell. I don't think... Oh, look at that. Well, we finally answered that question. There's a triangular tab in the back of this tread, and this thing totally tabs into that. So that explains why that exists. So that does tab in. That's good to know. I think everything's tabbed that's supposed to be at this point. There might be some Devil Savior expert out there that'll contradict me. But that's Devil Savior. That's the torso of Devil Savior. We do have 1 leg outstanding. It's downstairs, but I can't really stand it on 1 leg. And we still have both arms. One arm is comprised of a single robot, the front-end loader guy. The other arm is the crane and like a bulldozer combined together. They're 2 smaller figures, exactly like the Studio Series one in terms of its composition. But that's him. That is Devil Savior. Crank down the... make it look more mysterious. But that'll go off in a corner until I get the rest of the pieces. I don't really want to do like, you know, traditionally I might take all the things back to robot mode or vehicle mode and like do a turnaround with all the vehicles. They won't fit on my turntable. They're too big. So it doesn't matter anyway. But then do like a robot mode turnaround. But I never want to transform this again, ever. And so I'm not gonna. And so what we'll have is like maybe a supercut of them transforming from vehicle mode to robot mode, and then show like a film, like a combining, you know, getting everything lined up and doing all the tabs and combining it, and then, you know, final turnaround with the big guy. But each of the individual robots will kind of get their own sequence like they have so far. So even the last, whatever the last robot is, will get its own separate sequence, and then I'll do a supercut that puts them all together so we can do the big reveal, the big final Devil Savior. It'll be a hell of a big thing. I don't know what I can compare it to. I mean, these guys are basically Voyager size, or deluxe, just over deluxe size. Here's a soda can to give you an idea of scale. So it's going to be a fairly big combined mode. Quite a shelf presence. Most people will never want to transform it again, so that's all it'll be, a combined thing. All right, well, I mean, I've had my breaks. I think I have a live stream where I explain what happened to this guy, where this thing broke. Watch out for that. It's not an essential part. It's just kind of holds on some gam gauze and doodads. So I wouldn't say this was a very bad break, that figure. This guy, as frustrating and complicated as it is, didn't break at all. This guy, only the hip broke because, like I said, I suspect a mismolded part. But Devil Savior has really good... They eventually do get the part to you when you work through your retail partner. In this case, it would be Show Z. So Show Z, I put in my case for this thing, and, you know, a couple of months later, they sent me this whole kind of assembled subcomponent. I still haven't decided if I want to do the whole subcomponent or if I just want to try to replace the one part or whatever. It would require driving pins. It looks like Devil Savior was trying to avoid requiring me to drive pins in and out, so they have like this, you know, fully assembled up to the point where it's like screws. So I think they were just trying to make it easier to replace the part by not having me push pins out. My suspicion, I sent along a picture of just the, like the leg part that was broken. Maybe they'll just send me that light gray part. I more suspect that they'll send me like a big chunk of this assembly, but there's no way to avoid pushing this pin out unless they replace a lot of the the figure, because that pin's kind of like right in the middle of everything, so you'd have to drive that pin out to replace it. So whatever they send me, I'm sure it'll be fine to fix it. I would say they're pretty sturdy figures. I mean, the material selection is pretty good. You just have to be careful. It's like any other Masterpiece figure, but these guys are so much like every other Toy World figure I've seen. Not just the weathering effect, which of course is kind of like a Toy World thing, but the weathering there and stuff. You can't really see that, but the engineering philosophy, material selection, and construction just really reminds me of Toy World. It makes me think that like it's the same designer or the same team that's associated with Toy World. I don't know why it's under the banner of Devil Savior. Maybe they're just trying to avoid a fight with Hasbro. They just have it as a separate little splinter company to avoid trouble. I don't know, but it reminds me a lot of Toy World in the materials and design, and like the transformation design too. Toy World has a tendency to like have clearance issues. You just have these little clearance issues that you don't usually get with like Takara, and that reminds me, like, this has little clearance. These Devil Savior has little clearance issues too. So I don't know. It really reminds me of Toy World. Yeah, I got the red figures. I can show you. I've got Megatron and Soundwave, and well, that's weird. Oh, okay. I picked up Cheetor, and I picked up Optimus, and I picked up what do you call it? The Transformers Prime version. Please stay up. Of RC. They're okay. They're made out of kind of a rubbery plastic. They don't transform, and you just have to wonder. You get perfectly articulated $20 figures that transform, like deluxe figures that transform. And this is like a more rubbery plastic and doesn't transform and costs the same. And you really have to wonder if it's worth the trouble. But they do exist. There's a Bumblebee that's going to be one of the next releases, and I don't think he's come out yet. But that's what those were, if you were curious. Yeah, Optimus, Soundwave, and Megatron were part of the first wave. I didn't see them at Walmart, and finally I just gave up and ordered them from Walmart.com because I think they're Walmart exclusives, at least here in the States. And the day after I ordered them, I saw, like the day before she was set to arrive, I saw this sitting on a shelf. Oh, a correction, I did find a lone Optimus, which was kind of what got me started down that path. I went to a Walmart south of me, found this lone Optimus, and was like, eh. And then I ordered the rest from Walmart.com, but for a long time I wasn't seeing them in the wild, and they've supposedly been available in the wild for months. And I don't know. Let's see, housekeeping. This Sunday, already on for supporters at peelistdrew.locals.com. You can see X-Transbot's Andros, which is their take on Scourge, which is a pretty good Masterpiece figure. From the Halcyon days when X-Transbots wasn't making like disintegrating shit. Locke was terrible. Hopefully they can get their mojo back, but it's an older design that doesn't fall apart, and it's really nice, and I like it. That will be on YouTube this Sunday. And then this Sunday on Locals, the video I will shoot this weekend, I have a poll up at on my community at Facebook or YouTube, where I was asking, do you want New Age Darius, which is a legend scale Galvatron? Do you want the Good Smile Cycleon, which is like kind of a cute, like a sexy motorcycle chick? kind of in the spirit of Big Firebird Toys Nice, but just with less extravagant boobs? Or do you want to see Toy World FS-04 Alert, which is the World War II version of Barricade? And so far, Barricade has held a commanding lead the entire time the poll has been running. We're at 137 votes, and Toy World is at 40%. New Age Darius is at 31%, and Good Smile Cycleon is at 28%. They will all eventually get shot. I got them all from Chosen Prime. But I just was kind of curious what people wanted to see first. So that will be shot this weekend and will be on locals, and then next Sunday, it'll show up on YouTube. So this Sunday is X-Transbot Scourge, or Andros. And then next Sunday will be, it looks like Toy World Alert, unless the poll changes. Yeah, I think Starscream and Bumblebee are coming out for Red soon. Ordered my own Assaultus. Are you talking about MMC? No, MMC is a fantastic company with fantastic materials build and clearances, and you shouldn't have any trouble. There was a glitch they had with the add-on, like, chest plate. There was it didn't fold. Like, it didn't fold without breaking. Like, it was like it had been painted sealed. So when I tried to unfold it, it just cracked the folding joint on the chest plate. So maybe watch out for that. But I think they fixed that. They sent out replacements, and everything's fine with those. Yeah, I mean, Assaultus, those MMC bots, all the MMC figures are very solid figures. I couldn't recommend MMC more. Their Ocular Max lines have filled some nice gaps in the G1 Autobot for the masterpieces, like Trailbreaker and Mirage. Although, you know, the new Transform Element Mirage is better. Still like that Trailbreaker. And, of course, Make Toys made the Jazz that filled in the Jazz part of the line, but Mastermind Creations, MMC, Ocular Max, they're very good. Very good figures. Very solid. KO Hide Shadow. That's the big helicopter, right? Yeah, I think that's a helicopter. Anyway, gang, we've discussed this. We've discussed what's coming next. We've discussed Transformers Red briefly. They're okay. Yeah, she confirmed, yes. Planet X, I handled one Planet X figure, two technically. The one I did was loaned to me. It was like the recolor of their Grimlock from the game. They don't have quite the heft. The materials are a lighter plastic and, you know, thinner walls on the plastic. They're very sturdy, but they're very retail toy feeling. They don't have quite that masterpiece feel, but they're cool. I like them. Someone had sent me their version of Ironhide and Ratchet, and I was like, well, at first I was like, I'll just shoot them both at the same time since they transform the same way. But I found the clearances on those were so shoddy that I was like, I'm just not even going to do this. So I steered away from that. I didn't like the way you had to kind of fight those figures to get them to transform. And even like the Fall of Cybertron Grimlock that I did, there's like a spot where you can't avoid like kind of just bending apart, like, you know, flexing apart a little bit, to get some clearance to get it past in relation to the tail. The transformation video I did on that is as close as you can get to avoiding a collision, but you can't avoid a collision without kind of flexing that one part past the other part. It's just the way it is. Oh, you got the Lila says they got the trailer for MPP-10 from Weijing. I imagine that's a big trailer because that's an oversized piece. MPP-10. That's got to be a really big trailer. Holy cow! I'm not a big trailer fan. It doesn't really turn into anything. I guess I kind of like the X Transbots trailer because it literally turns into something. Was it you? Okay, cool. Cool, Boulder. Well, thank you very much for having loaned that to me. I bring up loaning to people sometimes and they act like I, asked them to give away their firstborn child or something. So you're one of the brave ones that was willing to loan me a figure. Yeah, I couldn't quite get past the collision problem with that thing, but I got as close as I could by kind of twisting the hips at the right moment. Yeah, I'm happy to take loaners. I take good care of them. If I broke one, I'd get it replaced. Um, I'm good for it. But there's some things that just don't really enter into my collection. And I'm like, well, if you loan it to me, I'll take pictures of it. But you have to ask first. Don't just find out my address and start sending me shit. There's some things I probably don't want to do. I had a guy loan me both DX9 Chigurh and Gewalt. Those are both really good figures. But I don't own them. I shot them and then I sent them back. And of course, Chosen Prime has loaned me lots of stuff. Brandon's really good about that. Kind of on his own timetable. I'd be happy to do like I know he has like Fans Toys Phoenix, but for some reason he doesn't want me to shoot it now. He wants me to shoot it someday. But I'd love to borrow a Fans Toys Phoenix. It's just not. I'm not going to buy it, especially now that Takara is kind of suggesting that they're going to do their own MP Skyfire. I'm like, well, but apparently Fans Toys Phoenix is one of the less crazy, irritating, stupid linkage versions that Fans Toys has ever made. So it was almost tempting to buy it, but I never did get it. Yeah, I mean, I can see that happening with Planet X. Planet X, the plastic is like a lighter, hollower plastic. It is what it is, but they're the only company that kind of cornered that or got into the whole, masterpiece style video game figures. And so if you like those video game figures and they're cool designs, then Planet X is basically your only choice. Model Wizards Hornet Warrior. Jeez, I'd have to Google that. I don't know that one. Model Wizards Hornet Warrior. Huh. Model Wizards Hornet Warrior. Oh, I see. So it's another, like a Weijing oversized. Yeah. The Weijing certainly carved out a niche for themselves, but I was never very proud of them for lifting most of their designs from the Hasbro, Hashtag MP figures. I mean, you never know what goes on in the background. Maybe they did some sort of under the table license for that, but I doubt it. Especially considering Hasbro kind of went after them ultimately. But yeah, I have like the Weijing, the one that turns into a snub nose truck. The Optimus from where Optimus was hiding in like Cade found him in like a movie theater, like an old beat up movie theater, and then Cade put him in his garage and he was like fixing him up, and then he woke him up, and then Optimus Prime came tearing out of there and like took on the agents and shit. Remember that Optimus Prime? And then Hasbro came out with a pretty decent, a clever transformation, like Voyager size figure, but it just wasn't painted very well. And it had like the lower legs had like 2 wheels instead of just 1. And Weijing came out with an oversized, die-casted, nicely painted, and they even included like a new mechanism where one of the lower wheels rotates up and becomes the hip. And I thought that was pretty clever, rotates around the knee joint. I have that, and I just never shot it because it's just a little too KO for me. I did that RC recently, but that's kind of a KO too. I got to give respect or proper credit to the original designers, in that case Hasbro, because they did most of those designs. Oh, did they also? Is it Planet X that did that upgrade for the Fall of Cybertron Onslaught? I thought about getting that upgrade from time to time, but I don't know. You can't get everything. You gotta pick your battles. I never got much into the Fall of Cybertron. I mean, I got all the Hasbro Fall of Cybertron figures, but I didn't get too far into that. Didn't go down that rabbit hole. It's been great going back and forth. Glad to bump into you again, Boulder. You're the guy that loaned me the thing. Very awesome. Of course, Lila's always got some fun contributions, and Creston, and we'll do like Romper Room. We'll rename everybody. Firefox King and Paul Kazbzak. Good Lord. That's a lot of consonants in a row. But I appreciate everyone stopping by and saying hi. I think Black Apple would have canceled Ironhide because Hasbro started crawling up their ass for KOing their stuff. If I had to guess. Black Apple, Black Mamba, or whatever it's called, BMB, and Wei Zhang. I think they're all kind of the same design group where they were scanning, oversizing, and remaking the MPM figures, and I just don't think Hasbro appreciated it. So those guys have gone really quiet lately. Be careful when you KO. Probably if I had to guess, most of the cost of designing a figure or producing a figure is the design cost, like paying the designers to design it and the process that they go through to design it. So when you steal the design, that's why people are like, oh, I'll get Wei Zhang because it's like oversized and has like some new enhancements, new transformation gimmicks, and it's cheaper. Of course it's cheaper. They didn't hardly have to do anything. I mean, you still have the mold making process. That's an unavoidable expense. But the design costs, you hardly have design costs when you're doing a KO. And the people that paid for those design costs, Hasbro, are, I think, rightfully irritated about that sort of thing. But they do. Wei Zhang did make Black Mamba, and those guys did make some good figures. I mean, they were nice. I don't know. Unique Toys got real quiet after the Hasbro crackdown. I think people are kind of, Devil Savior's just plowing ahead, but I think a lot of them are kind of stepping around the MPM style space. But I think ultimately Unique Toys, they'd be crazy. I've seen pictures of that thing where it's basically, it's still prototype, but it's, obviously completely designed. And they'd be crazy not to release that ultimately, even if they do it under a different name like some people do. But I really hope that Galvatron comes out, because I love Unique Toys, at least that design team. I love how they handle transformations, and it's so fun, so clever, so clean on the back. That was going to be a cool figure. Yeah, his name was I almost had it. Unique Toys Nero. That's what they were calling it, Nero, if you want to Google it. But Unique Toys Nero was going to be the Galvatron that in the movie he just like turns into a bunch of pixels and then turns back into a robot. Just very lazy. So Unique Toys was going to make one that actually transformed. Yeah, there was the oversized KO of the Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, sure, and someone else did the Shockwave from Dark of the Moon. So there's been cool KOs. I just don't tend to get KOs. Oh, the recently released Arc. I don't have any particular thoughts about it. It looks cool. I have trouble believing it's as big as like what do you call them? The biggest one was Metroplex. It doesn't look like it's going to be as big as Metroplex or as big as like Scorponok, but we'll see. It doesn't look like a terribly complicated transformation, so it's a big, dumb, simple thing. But I mean, who doesn't want the arc? I'd probably hardly ever have it in robot mode. Like you'd want the arc, you know. It'd be kind of fun to have. The new like Beast Wars Scorponok that turns into an actual scorpion. That thing looks cool, and the Galvatron, the Kingdom or whatever Galvatron looks pretty cool too. You think it's only 18 inches, so it's this is half of it then. 9 inches. So it's just twice as tall as this thing, which puts it nowhere near Metroplex. Yeah, Google it. They just announced it, Boulder. Hasbro is going to. Okay, thanks, phone. I said the G word, and my phone decided to get involved in my life. Yeah, they just announced it. Look on the news sites like Cybertron.com or TFW2005.com or IGN. They just announced it. There's pictures of it. It even comes with like basically a Teletran 1, like the computer console that they're always standing in front of. There's like a Teletran console it comes with that transforms into a robot also. And the robot's name is Mainframe. So look for the announcement. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's not an interior to that arc, but it's still an arc and has like a little ramp, and you can pretend your robots are coming out of it, I guess. All right, gang. I'm going to get ready to sign off here. I appreciate everyone stopping by. If anyone's rewatching this later and is sitting all the way to this point, thanks for doing that. I try to get through the transformation right at the beginning so those people don't get bored. But that's pretty much it. Look for Andros this Sunday on YouTube, and look for Toy World Alert or Barricade on Locals this week on YouTube, and next week on, this week on Locals, and next week on YouTube. And that's it. Have a good evening, and have a good Thursday, and have a good Friday, and a Saturday. Have a good Saturday, you know. And then, I'll just kind of keep going until I just awkwardly end the stream. And, that's